lot more dangerous than Hez. He was absolute, meaning only another absolute being could kill him. That was still scary, but there were only two other beings alive that posed any real risk to Seth: Cronus and Zeus. But for me, my heart lurched in my chest. Pretty much any other being that was better trained at physical fighting and was more skilled at controlling the elements posed a risk to me and my child. Granted, as a demigod, I would be harder to kill, but I still could be killed. And what if I was seriously injured in a fight with the Titans? What would that mean for the baby? The fact the child had survived the time I was captured by Hyperion proved that this kid was a fighter. No doubt about it, but it was still vulnerable because I was vulnerable. But I wasn't weak, which was why I was out here and not cowering in my bed. Once again, I summoned the element of air, but this time I didn't raise my hand. A moment passed, and then the boulder rose. Good. That was good. Exhaling through my nose, I gently lowered the boulder and then lifted it again. I kept doing it until my will became an immediate action, until there wasn't a tremble before the rock lifted. I didn't stop until I did it right, and after about a dozen times, the boulder did what I wanted, lifting without hesitation. A smile tugged at my lips as I stared at the boulder hovering a good 3 feet off the ground. That thing had to weigh a ton, but I'd lifted it off the ground with my mind. How cool was that? Even after everything I'd been through and everything I'd seen, there were still times when I couldn't believe any of this was real. That I was a demigod, that I was in love with a god, that I was A twig snapped, startling me. The boulder fell back to earth, slamming into the ground with enough force to collapse the knee-high iron fence at the back of the field. "Wow," came the deep, slightly melodic voice. "You dropped that like it was hot." It was him. He was back. I spun around, and like always, my breath hitched. No matter how mad I was at Seth, seeing him never failed to get my heart pounding. He was simply beautiful, almost painfully so. He had a face that was so perfectly pieced together, there were days I didn't think Seth was real. Like those broad cheekbones and full lips were molded from clay, and the curved jaw was chiseled into perfection from the finest marble, as was every square inch of his body. And I would know, since I was well-versed in every square inch of his body. The first time I saw Seth in the stairwell at Radford University, back when my life was normal and gods were just ancient Greek myths, he'd reminded me of a fallen angel. A fallen angel with personal boundary issues, but I'd never seen anyone who looked like him before. But Seth was no angel, fallen or not. He was, literally, a god. The appointed one. The god of death and life. So of course he'd look like a god. And I didn't care how hot he was at the moment, I was pissed at him. He seemed oblivious to this because he smiled at me. That one smile he had that usually caused my chest to feel like it was full of butterflies. "Have I told you how much it turns me on when you're moving stuff with your mind?" He stepped around several smaller rocks that were piled up on one another. "Because if I haven't, let me inform you now. It really turns me." "Don't." I crossed my arms over my chest. Brows a little darker than his golden hair furrowed. "Don't what?" "Don't come over here and try to flatter me," I said. "I'm mad at you." Seth stopped a foot away from me. Confusion settled onto his striking features. "Mad at me for what?" I stared at him for a moment and then realized he really had no idea that I knew what he'd been doing. "There's something we haven't talked about, Seth." Lifting a hand, he tucked his hair back behind his ear. "Yeah, I'm getting a feeling there is." "I know a lot has happened in the last couple of weeks. Months, even. My entire world has changed. So has yours. I found out that my dad is freaking Apollo, and I'm supposed to help entomb some crazy titans, which, by the way, we still don't know how to do. Anyway, everything with my mom and grandparents happened." My voice cracked, and I swallowed the sudden knot in my throat. "And then everything with Atlas and Solos went down, and you became a god and..."